Yeah,
Got it.
I'm just a viewer, but Amita's a new friend of mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi everyone. We're here today with Don Kim, and he's a third year dental student. If you guys have any questions, put them in the YouTube live chat, and we'll go over them after the presentation. Don, you have the floor.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Don. So let me move on to my slide here. So yeah, my name is Don. I'm a third year right now at UCLA Dental School. So this is a little bit about me to introduce myself. Um, I enjoy I enjoy, as you can see, taking pictures of teeth here. I also like to do some movie skill for fun on my downtime and also work out. And this bottom here is an ice cream, probably my favorite dessert of all time. Do you guys know what it is? No, it's a boba ice cream. So you can see that like there's boba in here. And it's milk tea flavor. It's so good. I think they usually sell it at like H Mart or something like that. Anyways, yeah, that's a little bit about me. And currently, my interests are in operative dentistry, which is basically like general dentistry, like fillings and crowns, and prosthodontics. So prosthodontics is basically specialty that replaces missing teeth. So like implants and dentures and so forth. Okay, so those are where my interests are. And this is a little picture of me working at a pros lab here on a denture case, a patient. So yeah, so in this presentation, I'll be mostly be talking about so this presentation is actually I gave this same presentation to CSUN pre-dents, and they asked me some questions about like DAT and personal statement and stuff. So I've already answered those questions here. So I'll just be going over those as well with you guys. And then after that, I'll give you guys some tips on personal statement and also share a little bit about day in the life of a dental student at UCLA. So you guys have a better idea what dental school is like. Okay, but throughout the presentation, if you have questions, just feel free to ask. And whoever can moderate the chat, can let me know if there's a question or not. Okay. Alrighty, so let's get started. So back there, CS1, they asked me some questions on like DAT resources, DAT study tips. So disclaimer, I took a DAT in 2016, which is like ancient, right? Years ago, right? So a lot has changed. A lot has changed since then. But I used primarily DAT Bootcamp, which has changed a lot. Now pretty much like DAT Bootcamp covers the whole spectrum of the DAT test. So back then, they were cheaper and they were not as extensive on reading and maybe math, but they're like pretty much, they have a lot on everything now. They have videos on bio, chem, math, and like not writing, sorry, reading. So Bootcamp has improved a lot for sure. I've also used DAT Destroyer. I went through it twice. Cliff Notes AP Bio, third edition, sort of as to get myself started on bio, the foundations, and to review. Chad's videos, you guys don't know, Chad is this bald-headed dude. He's really smart. He has lectures on math, general chemistry, organic chemistry, and he nails it right on the dot in terms of what's exactly covered on the DAT, right? So I use Chad's videos to get my foundations in chemistry and organic chemistry, and I use DAT Destroyer to practice. For Atlas Notes, it's available on Student Doctor Network. It's free resource. It's basically kind of like a biology textbook, and I used it mostly as a reference. It's very, very dense. I used it as a reference for when I didn't know something and I couldn't find it anywhere else. But I just want to make a disclaimer that it's less about the materials, but it's more about what you do with them, right? So as a case in point, one of the D2s in my school, Michael Zhao, very smart guy, he just used the boot camp and he scored a 28 and he studied 4 weeks, okay? So it's about what you do with it, not exactly the materials. Materials is not like special, okay? I feel like nowadays you can probably use, boot camp and do well. But I know materials are like more expensive now too. Like boot camp used to be like 129 when I was taking it for 90 days. Now it's like 500 plus, right? Study tips, generally speaking, repetition, very important. Study the thing over and over so it sticks. Active recall, very important because, well, at first you have to read and understand, and try to memorize. But try to later on, when you repeat studying the same material, try to actively recall, the concepts. and learn from wrong answers. I made index cards of all of my wrong answers in DAT Bootcamp, DAT Destroyer, and I reviewed them periodically. If you want some more detailed tips, I suggest go to YouTube. Our school has a club called UCLA Pre-Dental Outreach, very, very helpful resource. We actually have a lecture on how to destroy the DAT, and it was me and Michael giving the lecture. So if you want more tips, go to that YouTube channel and you can check that video out. Any questions about DAT? Okay, well, then moving on. So another question that I had from CSCN was talk a little bit about transition to dental school, recommendations to stay up to date with the dental world, any summer dental programs. So, okay, so start off for summer programs. UCLA, we have this course called Basic Dental Principles offered to pre-dental students. I think it takes place primarily in winter spring quarters. And it's basically dental students. I'm actually part of the club right now. Dental students go and give lectures to you guys on any topic of dentistry. Like, for example, I'm giving a lecture this, already gave a lecture this quarter on PFM crowns. And next quarter, I'll be giving a lecture on Introduction to Prosthodontics. So that's a good resource. It's like a legitimate course, so you get credits for it, and obviously you have to pay for it, but that's one. And summer courses, I think summer opportunities, there's like SHPEP. Obviously, there's fewer opportunities now, but yeah, there's SHPEP. And yeah, that's as far as I know from right now, off the top of my head. And in terms of recommendations to stay up to date, some useful resources for you guys to read upon about the dentistry world is American Dental Association. There's also American Dental Student Association, also California Dental Association. They're all very useful resources. But I would say probably the best resource are dentists. You go shadow or assist dentists and ask them, any questions about, the field, where is it going? What are some issues, major issues in dentistry today, in your opinion? And what are some technologies that's out there, et cetera, okay? It's useful to, assist, work as an assistant for a dentist, I would say, because not only looks great on the application, but also you're gonna get very familiar with what it's like to work at a private practice, and your knowledge will also be increased by a lot because you're constantly interacting with the dentist. You can ask him any kind of questions, and by the time interview rolls around during the interview day, you can showcase your knowledge, talk about your knowledge in dentistry, and it will look very good. Some important skills to gain from undergrad to help you transition into dental school. Very basic, nothing special. You don't have to do like special dentistry things necessarily. All you got to do is develop good study habits. Develop a study habit where you consistently study, because you're gonna have a lot to study in dental school, definitely more than your undergrad. Exams just become kind of regular routine. So try not to cram. Try to establish good study habits, consistent study habits early on. Try to study even when you're not feeling that pressure right before an exam. Try to study consistently. And interpersonal skills are also important. I know a lot of dental students are, we're nerds. We're like the sciencey, mathy people. We're not necessarily the arts kind. Well, some people are though. But a lot of us tend to be introverted. But when you come to the dental field, that's fine. But you have to still get out of your comfort zone a little bit, because you have to maintain good relationships with your patients. A very, very big part of good patient care is, I would say probably the biggest part of patient care is having good rapport with patient and having good relationships with patient, right? And that requires emotional intelligence and your interpersonal skills. So if you're kind of the introverted type, I would say try to go out and socialize more and practice. And yeah, that also helps you maintain good faculty relationships later on when you come to dental school, because faculty relationship in dental school, probably one of the most important things if you were to apply to residency programs, because they're the ones writing your recommendation letters. Another thing that I think is very helpful is adaptability. So adaptability it's something that I've recently noticed in dental school, is that dental school is going to present you with a million different problems. There's not a single dental school out there that is perfect. all dental schools have logistical flaws. Some dental schools are strong in this aspect. Some dental schools are more strong in this other aspect. Like my dental school, there's fewer patients compared to like USC, but we make up for it for the rate of specialization. We have a lot more kids getting into residencies. Okay, so there's always gonna be things, obstacles and things holding you back in dental school, but you have to be able to adapt instead of, it's very tempting to blame the school and blame the circumstance, but you always have to adapt and you have to find solutions. Any problem you've had in dental school, someone else has already had, and someone else has already found a solution to. So I'm sure you can as well. So adaptability, it's kind of a mindset thing, but good to think about that early on. Any questions about that, by the way?
We don't see any questions in the chat.
Okay, sounds good. Move on. Some things that, another question that I got was some things that I knew or did before dental school. So what I did, very basic, I was very cookie cutter. So I had good GPA, good DAT. I did, at least 100 hours of shadowing, at least 100 hours of volunteering. I had a couple leadership positions. Research experience, I did in school, I did research now and then for 2 years, sort of like, not consistently, but now and then, okay? A little more in like during the breaks. But I did full-time research during gap year after school at National Institute of Health. Also, I had 2 teaching assistant experiences for 2 classes. And yeah, in terms of what I knew, I guess that's talking about dentistry. In terms of what I knew, I didn't know much about dentistry back then beyond the fact that it's, it uses your hand skills, you own your own business, you have a good lifestyle, you establish good relationship with your patients, those basic information. But that's okay. You won't know that much either. You'll learn a lot more once you get into dental school. Even now, I don't have a good idea of dentistry, like real world dentistry, because I'm still in the school bubble. So that's okay. Just try your best to, get to know what you can from dentists and from, I don't know, whatever, reading articles and so forth. But yeah, any questions about this?
We still don't have any questions. I think
yeah, you guys can ask too.
Our YouTube live chat is down, so I asked people to put it in our other group chat, but I don't think we have any questions so far. Do any of you?
Oh, YouTube live chat is down. Can they come to Zoom?
I'm not sure because we usually don't put the Zoom link up. But if they have questions afterward, I can put them in our quiz and.
Yeah, and I can answer it like some other time too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just elaborate a little bit here. Shadowing, I would say, try to shadow general dentists. Try to fill up most of the hours of general dentists because you're gonna become a general dentist when you graduate dental school. So they want to make sure that you're okay with being a general dentist first. You don't want to get too ahead of yourself and only shadow orthodontists or only shadow oral surgeons. So you can shadow the specialties, but make sure bulk of your hours are from general dentists. And volunteering, you can volunteer anything you want. Doesn't have to be dentistry related specifically. Outreaching dentist. Yeah. So how I did was I called up dentists in the area, and I asked them, can I shadow? You can do it that way, or you can also just go visit them directly. Bring some food, and be like, hey, I'm a pre-dental student. I'm interested in dentistry. Is it cool if I can, now and then just observe now and then? I can, help out too. Volunteer to help out too if you need any help. I'm just trying to feel out what it's like to be a dentist. It's a mixed response. So just keep reaching out to more dentists, and you'll find at least one that will say yes. So research experiences. Research is optional. Majority of my class hasn't done research in undergrad at all. So research is not required. It's an icing on the cake. Don't feel obligated to do research unless you might enjoy actually doing research. I did research in school for 2 years on and offly. I didn't really enjoy that. During my gap year, when I was able to focus completely on research, I enjoyed it a lot more. If you can teach a little bit, that'll be great too. Definitely good having mentorship experience. And in terms of GPA, there's not really like a hard line cutoff, but I would say try to maintain 3.5 or above to be safe, and DAT 21 or above, generally speaking. But obviously that depends on what kind of school you apply to. But yeah, GPA and DAT, they're not everything, but they're the first screening, right? I'm sure most of you will get past the first screening because you guys all study very hard and no one here is gonna have like a 2.5 GPA, right? So yeah, I'll move on. What stands out more in application? Obviously good GPA and good DAT if you have a really good scores. Also authentic personal statement, which is probably the most difficult part here. So most personal statements sound very cookie cutter and sound exactly the same. So it's very hard to stand out with a personal statement. We have a whole YouTube video dedicated to this to make your personal statement sound more authentic and how to ace your personal statement. So like I said before, the same YouTube channel, UCLA Pre-Dental Outreach, check it out. We have a video on personal statement if you want to find out more. I'll talk a little bit more as well later on. Also, early submission of application is very important. Let's say you have like 6.0 GPA and like 35 DAT, okay? But if you apply, also an exaggeration obviously, but if you apply in like November, right? It doesn't matter if you have good stats because the spots are already filled up. It's rolling. So for example, like UCLA, we've already accepted most of the class by like August. So you should try to, my advice is you should try to apply that month as soon as the application comes out for submission. I think it comes out late May, right? So try to apply like early June, for example. In order to do that, you gotta have the application pretty much all done and ready, right? So personal statement is bulk with the application. So just make sure you start on that at least a month in advance. You're most likely going to rewrite it a few times. So start that early. And the other sections are pretty straightforward. It doesn't take a long time. Okay, and a bonus is, like I said, research. So research experience is not, it helps, doesn't help that much, but it's definitely an icing on the cake. But if you have research publication, like second author or first author, then it's pretty impressive. Then that definitely stands out for sure. But in order to do that, you have to dedicate a lot of time to research. So weigh the cons and benefits. Like only do so, I would recommend, only do so if you have a genuine interest in doing some research, okay? Otherwise, it will just be like a drag like for you. So things that make personal statement less authentic. So I'm gonna go over a couple points here that I think is a common mistake that I see. So not answering why dentistry clearly is one that I see often. Make sure you have at least one sort of like a thesis sentence that summarizes clearly why you want to become a dentist, okay? The main idea of the essay. Also having multiple messages, like multiple main ideas is also not a good idea. As in like, I want to be a dentist because I like working with my hands, I want to help people, and I want to make good relationships with people. I want to have a good work-life balance. You don't want to have multiple things. Stick to one or two main idea / value, right? And then you got to build up to that value in relationship to your own experiences, right? And desire to help others is not enough. You got to go a little further than that. And you can't just be like, I want to help people, have a better smile. I want to change people's lives. That's not enough. You got to relate it back to you. Leveraging on, I see this a lot too. If you're a minority or if you've had traumatic experiences, that can help, but that's not the only thing you can rely on, right? So let's say you're a minority and you say, I'm an immigrant that came blah, blah, blah from like a couple years ago from China, and I had to go through all of this and I had to learn English and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's impressive. The problem is there's so many minorities here. It's almost to the point where the minority is the new majority now. Like in my class, it's like, it's hard to find white people almost nowadays. So having traumatic experiences only helps you only if you learned from it and it's relevant to the main message you're trying to send. I had another pre-den who had one of these like traumatic experiences, but I think it was like he was outside one day and then he saw this woman. He heard a really loud crash and he looked outside. There's a woman lying on the floor and then a man next to her like freaking out. So he went down there and he basically resuscitated her until the ambulance arrives. And he talked about it in a way that it made him sound like he wants to be a doctor, not a dentist. So, you got to make sure that experiences are relevant to the message you're trying to send. Just having like a major experience doesn't necessarily make you better qualified. You gotta like back it up. And I see this often too, having concern for the poor, having concern for people who have no access. That's like everyone says that. Unless you know what it's like to be poor, unless you've actually know people who are really poor and who have a problem accessing care, and you really truly know what it's like, I recommend you not make that the main idea, because it's really hard to sound genuine when you talk about something that you actually don't have no idea about. So it sounds nice, but it sounds nice, but everyone talks about this, okay? So it's very common and it's very easy to sound cookie cutter and not genuine. So be careful when you go for main ideas such as like, oh, I want to help people, or I want to help people access to care. Always relate it back to your experience so it makes it relevant, right? Also, reiterating qualifications that are already present in your application. It's redundant. Always want to sound humble in the essay, okay? Unless the experience is directly relevant to the message you're trying to convey, don't reiterate your accomplishment. Like don't say like, I had the honor of organizing this huge event for this purpose, but then that's not adding so much to the main idea of the essay. Then you're just reiterating your accomplishment, and you want to sound humble, okay, as frequently as possible. And flowery language, unless you're a writer, unless you're good at writing, don't try to overdo your writing skills. Don't try to use flowery adjectives. Don't try to use passion, words like passion so often, okay? Because it makes it sound like you're overcompensating for something. Unless you're a writer, don't try to write a poem, for example. That's what I'm trying to say. Write it as if how you normally talk, okay? And also, this is very nuanced, but too many direct self-descriptions, like, oh, I'm empathetic, I use my empathy, blah, 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 to connect with the patient, blah, blah. So those things, less convincing, not very convincing, right? You have to show it, not tell them who you are, right? So for example, if I tell you that I'm a good artist, they're gonna believe me. But if I show you my artwork, you're gonna believe me, right? So don't tell them who you are, show them who you are through indirect descriptions, through your experiences, okay? Any questions about these? I know I went through it really fast.
We still don't have any questions, so I think you can keep going.
Oh, no problem. We can always answer it later. Okay, so day in the life at UCLA. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more now about what it's like as a first year, second year, third year, fourth year at UCLA. I can't speak for other dental schools, but this is the experience you'll be getting at UCLA. So each year is quite different. So first year, you'll be mostly studying foundational sciences like biochemistry, a lot of like physiology, anatomy, microbiology, pharmacology, and all those things. And you'll be studying some dentistry, not that much, okay? You'll be doing a lot of waxing in lab, waxing up teeth so that you can learn dental anatomy, okay? And towards the latter half of the year, you'll start drilling and filling teeth in the sim lab, and you can start getting a feel for what it's like to drill fill. Drilling is a big learning curve, and everyone struggles in the beginning, but everyone catches up. And also, you'll be joining a lot of clubs, because it's your first year, so you're trying to discover your interests. So joining a lot of clubs is a good idea, and then later on, you can narrow down to whatever you want to stick with. And surprisingly, you have a lot of free time, although you have more exams than probably undergrad. Compared to second year, you have a lot more free time. So try to use that free time wisely if you do have free time. How to succeed, actively get to know your classmates, very important. It's your first year. Dental school is very small. Everyone will know who you are. So it's good to make good relationship early on with everyone. And obviously, hopefully you've had good study habits in undergrad and you're able to study consistently and not cram during exams. And always try to practice now and then for your labs, like waxing and drilling. Yeah, so that's what first year is like. It's a lot of fun. I know it might sound daunting, but I have probably had the most fun in first year because everyone is so excited to get to know each other and spend time with each other and things like that. And also our class, you know, UCLA gets a bad rep for being really like kind of cutthroat, because we attract a lot of like high achievers. But it wasn't the case for my class. We were very cooperative. We have like group chat for like sharing study guides and sharing resources. So I haven't felt like it was cutthroat at all. Our class is very cooperative, if anything. I think part of that is also helped by the fact that our school is pass fail, so there's no grades. All right, so second year at UCLA, it's the busiest year basically. It's the year with the most exams. So you'll be doing more studying, you have more didactics, you'll be learning more on physiology, like heart system, respiration, digestive system, and everything. You'll be learning a detailed oral pathology, all the different kind of lesions you can get in the mouth. And you'll be learning more dentistry. You'll be learning like direct, which is fillings, indirect, which are crowns, and endo, which are root canals, prosthodontics, which are dentures. So you're learning all the dentistry now. You're learning all the theories behind dentistry. And you also have the labs that are associated with them. So you have more labs, you have more studying compared to first year. So you'll be very busy with exams. The exams kind of become part of your life. And towards the latter half of second year, you'll start seeing patients for basic things like cleaning. And by now, hopefully you've been involved enough as a first year in clubs that you can start taking some leadership positions as a second year. How to succeed as second year, most important thing is studying consistently because you have a lot to study. And leading clubs is optional, but some people like to do a lot of leadership. Keep in mind that your time is limited. You can't do everything. So if you do decide to pick on like 5, 6 leadership positions, to realize that you're gonna have less time to study. So you gotta weigh the pros and cons based on what you want out of that year. So dental school is a little different from the, undergrad in the sense that there's not necessarily like a checklist of things you have to do, okay? Like pre-dents, you have to do shadowing and volunteering and all the pre-dental requisites and things like that, right? But in dental school, it's not like very straightforward. You can sort of customize whatever you want, the type of dental school experience you want to have, and that's fine. Like residency programs, like when you apply to residency programs, if you do want to specialize, there's not like a single cookie cutter pathway towards residency. You just gotta do well and pass all the courses, which is not that hard to do if you work hard. And most of it is just you have to have good relationships with faculty and you have to have true passion for that subject. Okay, so as second year, you can start assisting upperclassmen in clinic to get a good idea of what it's like to be in clinic, and you can start shadowing the different specialties as well. UCLA, we have all 9 specialties, so you get access to all of them. You can see what it's like. Questions from you guys? No? Okay, and moving on. So third year, I'm a third year right now. So you have a lot less didactics, a lot less studying, a lot fewer labs, okay? The didactics you have are more on advanced dentistry. Like we know the basics of dentistry now, so we're learning some of the more advanced theories and techniques in dentistry, okay? Like advanced restorative dentistry, advanced endodontics, advanced removable prosthodontics. We start learning some implant, we start learning some aesthetics. And you might have a few labs here and there, but definitely much less than as a second year. Most of your time will be spent on treating patients. You're pretty much a full-time dentist. But in dental school, things move on very slowly because we are very slow at treating patients. So you'll most likely see about 2 to 3 patients a day at max, okay? So each patient, you can take up to like 3 hours to treat. So you have plenty of time to treat. And also you get assigned rotations like oral surgery rotation, pediatric rotation, like prosthodontic rotation to see more about that field in person, okay, and get some more experience. How busy you get during third year depends entirely on you because you're the one scheduling all the patients. If you want to have more free time, you can just not schedule patients, right? But then you'll regret it later as a fourth year when you have to catch up on clinical requirements, right? And also you're paying such a huge sum of money for dental school. So why do you want to have free time? You want to try to have much experience as possible, as much experience as possible, right? So But yeah, third year entirely depends on you, how busy you become. And I just want to also reiterate, like I said before, I want to talk about adaptability more. Okay, so when you enter clinic as a third year, everyone's gonna complain about how they don't have enough patients. That's gonna be like, you're gonna hear that from everyone. But you have to remind yourself that that's not a problem specific to you. Everyone has that problem, but the hardworking ones still do fine, right? So although you have less control over your circumstance, because patients cancel, you can't control people, right? Patients cancel last minute, and like you don't get enough patients just by bad luck, right? Your patient pool is not very hot, all those things will happen to you. You just gotta remember that there's nothing you can do. Nothing's gotta be achieved by complaining about it. You have to adapt. Try to find your own patients. Go to like senior homes and find elders who are missing teeth, who need dentures. Put up an ad to find some patients. You guys can sell the fact that in dental school treatment is cheaper. That's a selling point. So you can, and also family friends to refer whoever they know to you. Okay, so you gotta try hard in adapting. Okay, that's the only way to succeed. And third year is when you start finalizing your decision about what you want to do after school, whether you want to work in private practice as a general dentist or whether you want to specialize. So it's good to start building faculty relationships around third year. Think about who you want to ask recommendation letters from and start getting close to that faculty. I would also consider investing in a camera to document all of your cases, and also to start practicing some photography. Photography is really fun. It's a little bit hard to do in the beginning because you're taking a picture of the mouth. You have to put like this big mirror in the patient's mouth to get a good photo, and patient's like choking. So in the beginning it's tough, but you get used to it later, and you find a way to do it efficiently. And hopefully you'll be done deciding what you want to do by the end of third year. So that's pretty much an overview of third year. And fourth year is very similar. You have even fewer didactics. You're mostly just seeing patients. You're trying to finish all your clinical requirements. You're still going on rotations. And in UCLA, we have this unique program called community-based clinical education, where fourth years are sent outside of school to an office somewhere in the West Coast, where you can get actually real life dental experience. You work like a dentist pretty much for a few weeks. And so in school, you might be seeing like 3 patients at most per day, but in these CBCD offices, you might see 6, 10 patients a day. So your speed will be forced to pick up real fast. So this is how UCLA is sort of trying to make up for the fewer patients we have in Westwood by extending us to other offices. If you're interested in applying to specialty programs, fourth year is when people try to do some externships, go visit the program and see what it's like, observe the residents and so forth. And yeah, the most important thing is finishing up the clinical requirements and applying to residency or a job. And so that's pretty much fourth year. Yeah, like I said before, dental school isn't a cookbook like how it is for pre-dentals. There's only a few exceptions where you kind of have to do certain things, like oral surgery. If you want to go to oral surgery, you have to take this big exam called CBSE. So CBSE is basically the same exact test as Step 1, which is the medical boards for medical students. So you have to study medicine on your own during dental school, and then you have to take this exam, and you have to get a good score. And for ortho people, if people want to pursue orthodontics, you have to do some research. They value research experience. So that's something that you almost have to do. But other than that, there's no requirement. There's no nothing. You can just tailor the dental school experience in the way that you find most fulfilling. And this goes without saying, but try your best not to fail classes. Yeah, hard work and relationships very important in dental school. Dental school is very small. Faculty know who you are. Students definitely know who you are. Having good relationships with faculty will pay dividends when you apply to residency, because they'll write you a very personal and positive recommendation letter. And recommendation letter is actually weighted quite high when you apply to residency programs. Not necessarily your, not UCLA, since we don't have grades, right? Pass fail. For us, the recommendation letters are probably the most important. And yeah, follow your heart. Don't fall into the pressure to specialize. UCLA in particular, we're a specialty school, so a lot of people specialize here. But don't feel like you have to specialize just because everyone else is. Follow your heart and do what you want to do. I'm still going back between general dentistry and prosthodontics. General dentistry is really fun too, because the benefit is you can choose what you want to do and you can throw away everything you don't want to do. You can refer everything else you don't want to do, right? And also, you don't have to pay for extra education. You can just start working. So, you know, there's benefits to all of that. I feel like this is probably like too far ahead for you guys, but this is some things that I learned in dental school. This might not make sense, but I'll try to keep it easy to understand. So when you come to dental school, something that's really interesting is your reputation is everything. Your reputation is very important. But I think I've talked about this already before, but dental schools are a small community. Your reputation, everyone will know who you are. So try to be on the good side. Try to stay on the good side of the faculty and also your students, fellow students. And you go through the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is you might maybe you're kind of good at hand skills. Maybe you're kind of good at waxing or drilling compared to your peers, right? And you get all this compliment that you're naturally good, right? So you might actually start believing that, wow, I'm a hot shot in dentistry, right? But we're like dental school's a bubble. If you get out of dental school, we're nothing but a grasshopper, right? Because we're competing against dentists who are seasoned and experienced, right? So always stay humble. Don't try to get carried away. If you might, you know, have an edge over others, classmates in the beginning. And also the flip side is true too. If you are struggling, one of those who have a late start in terms of like hand skills and whatnot, keep in mind that it's not a competition. Don't compare yourself to who you someone else today, but always compare yourself to who you are yesterday, right? You're competing against yourself, not everyone else, because everyone has different strengths. If you might be good at something that someone else is not as good at, right? Vice versa, someone else might be good at something that you might not be good at. No one is good at everything. Everyone has their own strength and weakness. It's hard to standardize everything. Don't compare yourself on one scale, right? There's a lot of different measurements. So keep that in mind. And yeah, and you also find that faculty will vary a lot by personality and their level of competence. But no matter what, try to get on faculty's good side, even if you don't agree with them on a treatment plan, or even if they might seem to make your life harder than it has to be. Always try to be on their good side. It's not worth it in dental school to, you know, like get on faculty's bad side. I've already got into like 3 to 4 arguments with faculty before because I disagreed with their treatment plan. But as long as you have really good reasons and as long as you're very respectful, you can have those meaningful debates with faculty. But I will try not to if you can. And yeah, again, there's over 1 million things to complain about in dental school. Make sure to be adaptable and not be a complainer. And in clinic, when you're treating patients, you're almost always going to be underprepared. You might think you're prepared for an appointment. There's like a very high chance you're not. So always have plan A, and if that goes wrong, have plan B. And if that goes wrong, have plan C. Always be prepared for the worst, because almost always you'll be underprepared. What else do you want to hear, guys? So that was pretty much like my presentation. So I have some pictures here, some cases, if you guys don't want to ask any more questions, but if you guys want me to elaborate on anything else, you can let me know.
I think we should ask the questions through our quiz, and I can give you the questions after everyone watches the video. Okay,
that's fine. Okay, then I'll just share some of my photos, sort of just for fun for you guys. Okay, so let's say this patient, she's a 62-year-old female. She presented with this big defect. There used to be a filling here, but it popped out because the filling wasn't done very well. The bonding was not done very well. So if you look at the x-ray here, it's this one that I'm pointing at. You see right here, all these dark defects. this is the part where the defect is present, and you can see that the defect is like very close to where the bone level is. This is the bone level, and the defect goes right here all the way down to close to the bone. So it's a really deep one. So it's quite a challenging filling. So I excavated all the decay that was present and try to get a clean surface. This purple is a special dye called caries detecting dye, and it's used to detect bacteria decay. So you spray it on the tooth after you've removed some decay to verify that you've removed all of them. If you see a lot of purple on the tooth, that's still decay. You got to remove more. And so yeah, this is the floor of the preparation. So I got a nice seal, and I used composite to restore it back to looking natural. So this is the final restoration. So you can see this is the before, and this is the after. You can see the composite, right? Yeah. And this is a patient who had metal filling that goes across the whole tooth here. And on top here, this is actually a temporary material. It's actually not tooth structure. So the patient actually fractured off half the tooth completely. So we put a temporary on here, right? So he came in, he needs to get a crown because there's only too little tooth structure remaining. So we can't get away with the filling, we gotta do a crown. So I'm gonna remove the temporary, I'm gonna remove the metal, and this is what it looked like. Pretty much like 80% of the tooth is gone. So what I did was I added some composite to build the tooth back up, and I did a crown preparation, like so. So I added composite. You can see where the composite line is. All this white is composite. And I prepped it into a nub so I can put a crown on it. Yeah, so this was the impression. And this was the stone model for it. That's the crown preparation. And this is the gold crown. Beautiful, beautiful gold crown. And this is it being seated into the crown preparation. You can see the cap going on. And this is how it looks right here. So it looks nice. He has a lot of other gold restorations that are already present. So that's why he wanted to get a gold crown. And this is a little bit of pros. So this is a patient. This is a denture. He's wearing dentures on top and bottom. But the denture was defective. You can see his mouth is closed all the way, but there's an open bite here. You see how the teeth are not touching? So he didn't like that, okay? Because he wanted this gap closed. So we decided to make new dentures. I took impressions of the top, of the bottom, and make some wax models like so. So this is how you make dentures. You first take impressions, make a stone model, and then you make a wax on top of it. And then you're gonna put some fake prosthetic teeth into these wax, okay? And then once the prosthetic teeth are mounted into this wax, you're gonna convert the wax into acrylic. And then this is the final result. So this is the inside surface, and this is the outside surface of the denture. Looks very natural. This is how it looks in the patient's mouth. And this is the before, open bite, and this is the after. The bite has been closed. The patient was very happy with how it looked. We also went one shade lighter on the teeth. And you might be asking, how does a denture stay in place, right? There's no teeth, there's no implants. How does it stay in place? So it stays in place through a suction effect. You know how when you put like a rubber on like a damp window, you get a suction effect. It sticks on, right? Similar with the denture. Use saliva and the gums to get a suction effect. I'll demonstrate right here. So you can hear, I'm gonna share the sound here. Okay, so here, pay attention to this sound. You're gonna hear suction.
Okay. Open a little bit. There we go.
You heard that suction, right? Yeah, that's how it stays in place. And you're gonna learn a lot about occlusion, which is basically bite, the science of occlusion, the science of the bite. And getting a really nice bite on a denture is very important. I show you here.
Top hard, top to top.
A very balanced bite, even bite all around.
Forward and back. Forward and back. Okay, cool. Smile. Close. Okay.
Yeah.
Top hard, top to top.
Okay. And finally, I'll end it with an aesthetic case that I did recently. This patient, she didn't like how her front teeth looked. She didn't like the gaps here. right? But she didn't want to invest in braces. That's too expensive. So we decided to use composite to close the gaps. So I isolated it away from saliva using this rubber jacket, and then I added some composite to restore, close the gaps here, and to idealize the shape of the teeth. And she was very happy with how it looked. And this is the final result, how it looks. So from here to here. Okay, so that's it for now. Guys have any other questions? Please ask and submit it. Amita's gonna send it to me and I can answer it sometime in the future.
Thank you so much for presenting today. It means a lot. We can wait a couple minutes to see if they have any questions.
Yeah.
I have some questions about
Of course.
undergrad. What did you major in undergrad?
I majored in neuroscience.
At what school?
Johns Hopkins University. So I'm not from California. I'm from New Jersey, and I spent like most of my United States life because I'm originally from South Korea. Most of my life here I spent in the East Coast, and coming to dental school at UCLA was my first time coming to the West Coast.
It doesn't seem like we have any questions, so I guess they can put it in the quiz and
Yeah,
I
that's
can
fine.
take questions tomorrow.
Yeah. So you're just making the quiz based on this presentation, right? Okay. You can send me the quiz questions if you want me to go over it something later. Just make sure it's accurate. What are your thoughts on direct dental programs? Direct dental programs? Not too familiar with what that is. You guys know what it is?
Like 7-year programs, accelerated.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, if you know early on as a high school student that you want to go into dentistry, yeah, go for it. But just make sure that you know for sure you want to go into dentistry, because you don't have the luxury of having undergrad time to explore other things, right? So make sure to shadow dentist and make sure you know what you're getting into and make sure you for sure want to pursue this field. That's what I have to say. Perfectly fine with pursuing a direct dental program. It saves you one whole year, I guess. But fun fact, UOP, University of Pacific, is actually 3 years long. So if you go to UOP, it's pretty much doing 7 years too, right?
Right.
Because 4 years of college and 3 years of dental school.
All right, I think that's all the questions we have for right now.